What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 3 of Our Killer Obsession with James and Crystal, your true crime connoisseurs. Welcome back, and if you're new here, thanks for joining us, and we truly hope that you hit that subscribe button before you leave.
All right, I got a good one for you today. We're talking about B.T.K, aka Dennis Raider. B.T.K was a American serial killer from Kansas. B.T.K, he is a moniker he gave himself, stands for bind, torture, and kill. He used to sign letters, Bill Thomas Killman, B.T.K. He killed 10 people between the years 1974 and 1991 in Wichita and Park City, Kansas. But let's start from the beginning, because you know all these serial killers claim to have a terrible childhood.
Right, yeah.
They all kind of have similar beginnings. Well, let's talk about B.T.K, a.k.a. Dennis. He was born March 9th, 1945, to Dorothea and William Raider. He says his parents were very hard workers, typical Americans back in the day, latchkey kids, you know, working all the time, left their kids home alone. But he resented his mother for this. He says he felt very ignored, slighted by his parents.
Okay, yeah, kind of just forgotten.
He says his sadistic sexual fantasies started very young. It all started when he says his dad choked a chicken and it turned him on.
Oh, man.
He liked it. So then he started doing other things. He liked the thought of things feeling helpless and trapped, and that is what he liked, and he also wanted to feel that way. So he would tie himself up with ropes when he was very, very young until it aroused him enough to climax, and he realized that's what he liked. So he would tie himself up, hide out in the wilderness somewhere, tie himself up to do these things when he was very, very young, and it just continued into adulthood.
Which I guess there ain't nothing wrong with some
bondage
and stuff if you're into that as an adult, but
this goes far beyond.
Yeah.
He liked to feel trapped and helpless, but then in the future he likes making people feel trapped and helpless.
That's crazy, because I do not like feeling trapped and helpless, so
No.
I cannot imagine liking that feeling.
Oh,
no way.
Gosh. He also used to steal neighbors' underpants and keep them. He had a stash of ladies' underwear.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. He used to like to wear female clothing too while he peeped through the neighbors' windows.
Okay.
Yeah. He also, another typical serial killer trait, he tortured and killed small animals when he was young.
It almost seems like most of them, if not all of them, actually do that, which is so weird. Why? Is it like an experimental thing when you're young?
Probably
you're like,
practicing.
I want to toy with this, see what it feels like, see what it is like, period. And then you're like, oh, I like this. And then you keep going.
Yeah, practice. They all kill and torture animals, and they all blame their moms.
Wow, yeah,
that's what it seems
true.
like.
That is true. That is true.
All right. In 1971, he married his wife, Paula, and they had 2 children, a son and a daughter. He did get a bachelor's degree in administration of justice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is so ironic for what he's done.
Yeah, right.
He is your typical, like we talked about Edmund Kemper in our very first episode, and he liked to hang around police officers too and enter himself in conversations. This guy thought he was the law. He wanted to enforce the law. So he got his bachelor's degree in administration of justice, and he also worked for a security company.
Okay.
And installing security systems. And yeah, he became a community enforcer of type, like a HOA community enforcer. So he had to like ticket people and enforce the law, like your grass is too long or whatever, take your garbage out,
So he's just very active in the community and like in everybody's
business. Yeah. Wow. Neighborhood compliance officer is what it was called.
Wow.
Yeah. He was also a dog catcher. So he was like really in the community. He was a Cub Scout leader.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was the president of his church council.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about irony, right? Super religious guy, but nobody really knew what he was doing.
Right. Well, I mean, and I guess that's another way, probably, because this guy had gotten away with this for a lot of years.
Like 30 years, over 30 years.
Probably has to do with a lot of how he presented himself in public. With being in everybody's business and a pillar of the community.
Exactly. His daughter described them as a normal American family.
Wow.
Cub Scout leader, taking his son to Cub Scouts, overnight trips, big into the neighborhood. Everybody knew who he was. But they did say, as a neighborhood enforcer, he was like a bully, and he would bully the single women there.
Okay.
And actually 2 of them had to get restraining orders against him. And as a dog catcher, one woman stated that he had killed her dog for no reason.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably part of the killing animal situation. And then he feels empowered to do whatever he wants.
Right.
So
And then he's probably throwing around his power too. It sounds like as the enforcer of the neighborhood. And
Exactly.
wow.
Also, when he was working with the ADT security system, it was the years 1974 through 1988. That was like his prime killing time.
Oh my
And that's when
goodness.
all of the security system buying went up. And then he's installing your security system.
Oh wow.
So he knew who was single, who was alone.
And then let's not mention too, like we've had security systems in our previous houses, and I know that when you set them up, if you have somebody do it for you, they have to help you put in the password and everything and show you how to change it. And you know, a weirdo's going to remember your passcode if he wants to. So
Exactly.
oh,
This is going to take us to January 15th, 1974. This is when all his 6 fantasies come to a head. He had been watching the Otero family. It's a mom and a dad and their 5 children. One morning, he decided this is the time. He watched the 3 older children go to school, and that's when he made his way into the house. He caught the family, the son, the youngest son, the daughter, mom and dad, preparing their lunches for the day, just getting ready. And he took mom and dad to the bedroom, tied them up. I don't know how you would convince a dad to be tied up when you have your 2 young kids at home.
right.
But I don't know if it was promises I won't hurt your family.
I don't know, man.
Right,
I don't get that, because me personally, like if it's going down, like it's going
You're going to
down,
fight till the end,
I
right?
mean, it's going down. I'm going out. Well, one of us is going out, either you or
Right.
me, bro, because I'm not going to let you just.
And I know he
No.
had a gun. He held them at gunpoint, but I don't think that would matter for a lot of people. But, you know, if you're saying, I'm not going to hurt your family if you do what I say, some people will say, okay, I'm going to do what you say.
Some got the fight, some got the flight, right? You know, and I guess you never really know which one you have until you're presented with that, and then you'll find out.
Right. So he tied up the family. Mom and dad were in their bedroom. He put plastic bags over their heads, bound their ankles and their wrists, and stabbed them multiple times. The hands were tied so tightly that they were swollen to 3 times their normal size when they were found.
Goodness.
Yeah. Joey, the youngest, he was taken to his bedroom. They say he was found with 3 hoods over his head.
Wow.
A t-shirt, a plastic bag, and another shirt.
Wow.
Why the overkill
Yeah.
with the 3 covers?
Huh.
He was also bound and strangled. Then 3 older siblings came home after school, found their mom and dad this way, and their youngest brother ran out of the house, called the police. The police came. Detective Beulah was like, wait, there's a sister, right? The kids are outside saying, where's Josephine? Where's our sister? So they're searching the house, and he's looking everywhere. Can't find her upstairs anyway. They decide to go to the basement. And he's walking through the basement. It's very dark, and he bumps into something, and it kind of gives way. And he realizes it's Josephine, and she is hanging from a pipe in the basement.
Wow.
Dennis Raider, the killer, had hung her from a noose in the basement, gagged her, bound her hands behind her back and her ankles, and she was only in a t-shirt and socks. Also, they had found a pool of semen on the steps below her and on her leg.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Raider did admit to killing the Otero family later after his arrest in 2005. He also hid a written admission of the killings in an engineering book in the Wichita library in October of 1974, which that's going to come back around later. We'll talk about it again.
Okay, yeah.
So how you get to kill a whole family, that's is your first killing. Is that his first killing? Was there anything else before that? He says this is his first time. He's admitted to everything he's done.
That is quite a hefty load to pull off for your first one, right? Like no experimental, woman on the side of the road or anything like that. You just go take on a whole family.
The whole thing, yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So then we're up to April 4th, 1974. A young woman named Catherine Bright and her brother Kevin came to her home at night to find an intruder with a gun, claiming to be on the run from police. He told them he wanted to take their car and $100. Well, that's not what he wanted. He ended up ordering Kevin to tie up his sister in a bedroom and lay on the floor. So Kevin did this thinking, I don't know, he's going to do what they said. He had a gun. Maybe they're just going to steal the money. But then he bound Kevin too with jeans and stockings he had found in the home. And then he took Catherine to a different room. And Kevin heard his sister screaming. He started to get up, but must have made too much noise because Dennis heard him and came back in. And as Kevin was standing up, he shot him right in the forehead.
Wow.
Knocked him out. Didn't kill him.
Oh,
amazingly.
okay.
It didn't kill him.
Wow.
Knocked him out. So as Kevin came back to, he heard his sister screaming in the other room, went in there and tried to fight him for his gun. And he got shot again, but this time it shot him in the mouth through his lip.
Oh my
Still
goodness.
didn't die. Also got knocked out
No
again.
way.
Yeah, this kid has got 9 lives.
Wow.
He got up this time when he woke up and bolted for the door, thinking, I got to find someone to help us. Obviously, he wasn't able to do it. And within 15 minutes was picked up and police were at the home. Unfortunately, though, Catherine didn't make it. They found her stabbed multiple times and strangled in the room where he had left her.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was definitely a really close call.
Yeah, and it sounds like it was just a completely botched murder. You would almost think that would have been his first one that went wrong, and then you move on to a family. But like that was his second one, and it was really botched. It sounds like rushed, and
I'm really surprised he didn't get caught. And I guess when people describe him to the police, they just say it's just kind of too vague. You know, medium-sized white guy with dark hair. It's really kind of hard. There's a ton of white guys that look like that.
Wow.
Okay, we're up to October 8th, 1974. A local deviant named Gary Sebring. He was a prior convicted sex offender. He had been caught having sex with a duck in a park.
With a duck?
A duck.
A duck. Like quack, quack, duck?
Quack, quack, duck, yeah.
In the world?
A park. So this guy's crazy, obviously. But this time, he was picked up for molesting a 5-year-old girl. And during his interrogation, he admitted to killing the Oteros, and he said that he did it with his brother.
Oh, so here he's taking credit for
the murder, the big
BTK's murder.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, but him and his brother are known locals. They're both nuts. They were interrogated. Obviously, they didn't do it. They didn't know enough details, you know. But the TV airtime and publicity that these guys were getting was really pissing Raider off.
Oh.
He wasn't getting the credit that they were getting, and he's like, "This is BS," you know. So he called the Wichita Eagle paper office. And he said, listen and listen good, because I'm not going to repeat it. Then he proceeded to tell them about a note that he had left at the library, the note from before.
Okay, yeah, and I was kind of wondering, like, why would you do that if you're trying to get away with, you know, murders and everything? Why would you do that?
Right. Well, police found the note. When they went to the library, searched the books, found the note, and it was signed by Bill Thomas Kilman, BTK. The letter read, Otero case. I write this letter to you for the sake of the taxpayer, as well as your time. Those 3 dudes you have in custody are just talking to get publicity for the Otero murders. They know nothing at all. I did it by myself and no one's help. There has been no talk either. Let's put this straight. Joe, which was the father. Position. Southwest bedroom, feet tied to the bed. Head pointed in a southerly direction. Bondage, window blind cord. Garrote, blind cord, brown belt. Death, the old bag trick, and strangulation with clothesline rope. Clothed, white sweatshirt, green pants. Comments, he threw up at one time, had a rib injury from a wreck a few weeks before, laying on a coat. That's a lot of detail.
That is like very detailed. And this is like just a little while after the murders too, you know?
Yeah, it was a few months.
Wow.
Yeah, and knowing which direction, like according to a compass, which way they're pointed.
Yeah, how do you know exact cardinal direction, exact like room, exact everything?
Right,
how do you remember all that?
Right, like you have a blueprint of their home and know which way is which.
That's wild.
Right. Next he wrote, Julie, which was the mother. Position, lying on her back crosswise on the bed, pointed in southwestern direction, face covered with pillow. Bondage, blind cord. Garrote, clotheslined cord, tie, and clove hitch. Death, strangulation, twice.
Wow.
So the first time didn't work, apparently.
Wow.
Clothes, blue housecoat, black slack, white socks. Comment, blood on face from too much pressure on neck. Bed unmade.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that is so crazy to be able to remember all that.
Very specific. You would think, too, when you're doing a crime, the adrenaline would be getting you, and you kind of like forget or black out.
Yeah, let shock or not, maybe not shock, but like you said, just adrenaline period take over, and you just kind of black out or forget.
Yeah, like it'd be too much for you to remember.
But he's remembering everything, all details.
Yeah.
Wow.
Next he wrote, Josephine, which was the daughter. Position, hanging by neck in the northwest part of the basement. Dryer or freezer north of her body. Bondage, hand tie with blind cord, feet and lower knees, upper knees, and waist with clothesline cord, all one length. Garrote, rough hemp rope, 1/4 diameter noose with 4 or 5 turns. Clothes, dark bra cut in the middle. Sock, death, strangulation once, hung. Comments, most of her clothes at the bottom of the stairs. Her glasses in the southwest bedroom.
Wow, dude, that's wild. That is wild.
Yeah.
But he thought like, well, I'll prove to you guys I'm
That
the
it's
guy
me.
because I'm going to give you so much detail. You're not going to be able to.
I don't know if it's shock factor he's looking for, too.
Yeah.
But he obviously wanted the recognition.
Right.
Yeah. He goes on to write Joseph, which was the youngest brother. Position in an east bedroom, lying on his back, pointed in an eastern direction. Bondage, blind cord. Garrote, 3 hoods. White t-shirt, white plastic bag, another t-shirt. Clothesline, cord with clove hitch.
Mm.
Death, suffocation once, strangulation, suffocation with the old bag trick. Clothes, brown pants, yellow, brown striped t-shirt. Comments, his radio is blaring. Some people thought maybe the 3 hoods meant that he related to the boy and saw himself in the boy and like
So he just wanted
couldn't
to cover that up and
watch.
didn't want to see that boy.
I don't think that's the case. They
Man.
say they also found a chair in the little boy's room where he sat and watched him die.
Oh.
So I'm not really
may-
sure why he covered him up so many times.
Yeah, that's wild. Maybe one wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
So he grabbed something else and said, well, this will do it. And then that's not doing it. And so he just kept going until it was done.
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's weird too. Like he'll tell you all the details later on when he gets caught later on down the road, he'll tell you all the details,
Yeah.
but he hasn't said nothing about that. Like why the 3 hoods?
No.
Like he knows why.
I think
but-
some things he keeps to himself,
Yeah.
even though he gives out so much. So the letter goes on to state, all victims had their hands tied behind their backs, gags of pillowcase material, slip knots on Joe and Joseph, neck to hold leg down or was at one time. Purse contents south of the table, spilled drink in that area also, kids making lunches, door shade and red chair in the living room, Otero's watch missing. I needed one, so I took it.
Oh, my
Runs
goodness.
good. The thermostat turned down. Car was dirty inside, out of gas. I'm sorry this happened to society. They are the ones who suffer the most. It's hard to control myself. You probably call me psychotic with a sexual perversion hang-up. When this monster entered my brain, he also spells bad in his writing.
Mhm.
He's supposed to be very, very smart, almost on genius level, but I don't know if it's just the typewriter situation back in the day and you can't
Right.
like delete and return
Yeah,
what you're writing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the spelling is off in these
Wow.
letters. Anywho, this monster entered my brain. I will never know, but it's here to stay. How does one cure himself? If you ask for help, that you have killed 4 people, they will laugh or hit panic button and call the cops. I can't stop it, so the monster goes on and hurt me as well as society. Society can be thankful that there are ways for people like me to relieve myself at time by daydreams of some victims being tortured and being mine. In a big complicated game, my friend, of the monster play putting victims numbered down, follow them, checking up on them, waiting in the dark, waiting. The pressure is great, and sometimes he run the game to his liking. Maybe you can stop him. I can't. He has already chosen his next victim or victims. Don't know who they are yet? The next day, after I read the paper, I will know. But it too late. Good luck hunting. Yours truly, guiltily. P.S. Since sex criminals do not change their M.O., or by nature cannot do so, I will not change mine. The code words for me will be bind them, torture them, kill them.
Wow.
B.T.K.
Wow.
You see, he added again. They will be on the next victim.
Wow. Holy cow.
Right? And
That's
he put out tons of these letters over the years. I think he really liked to hear himself talk.
That's wild. And
Yeah.
he could get away with that back then too, because we're talking like the
Untraceable,
70s and 80s, like where they don't have all the tech and all the forensics that we have nowadays. So, you can have forensic evidence laying below a body or on a body or extract it from a body and you can't do nothing
No,
with that back
DNA
then.
wasn't a thing. Yeah, you could lick a stamp and nobody, you couldn't get nothing from it.
You know what I mean? You're calling them, you're talking to them, you're writing them letters, you're doing all this, but they're just
They
you
did
can't figure it
say,
out.
though, they tried to get fingerprints from everything and never could. They thought he was very careful and like wore gloves and stuff. There was never any hair, never any fingerprints.
Wow.
So he was
But it
semi-careful.
yeah, but it don't sound. Or was he just lucky?
Yeah.
Because it don't sound like he went in there in full garb. It just
Yeah,
sounds like
yeah.
like with the family, he was outside watching him. He's like, today's the day. I'm going in there, I'm going to do this. So it sounds like he just walked in as
himself. Yeah, he never tried to cover his identity unless he knew he was gonna kill them, so it didn't really matter.
So is he just really lucky, or is he just that good?
So after they received this letter, the police put out a classified ad in the paper trying to communicate back with him. And they've done this a few times, but it said, BTK, help is available. Call 684 blah 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 before 10 p.m. But he never responded to the letters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe he just never seen it. Because I almost think he would have
returned.
He would have, I think. He would have. If he would have seen it, I think he would have.
Especially with all the communications later with the news stations and stuff, which we'll talk about. Yeah. So then we're to March 17th, 1977. So we're like 3 years down the line now.
Okay, so he took a 3-year break.
Hiatus, yeah.
Wow, that's weird and kind of abnormal, Usually when they get going, they don't stop until something stops them, He's just like, I'm going to take a break.
Yeah, that's what they did say about him, is he's very patient. Wow. He was a very patient serial killer and took his time.
Oh, wow. Well, that's very dangerous. Scary. So you got to figure now he is very patient. He's getting away with it. He's very arrogant and cocky. And then he is a pillar of society. Right. So nobody is going to suspect him.
Exactly. Honestly, we'll get to it in the end, but he probably could have gotten away with it.
He probably could have gotten away with it forever.
If his arrogance and need for publicity didn't take over. We'll get to that. So here we are again, March 17th, 1977. In the afternoon, he knocked on Shirley Vian's door, looking for a lost dog. Of course not. Her 5-year-old answered, and he just kind of pushed his way in. He took the 5-year-old and the 5-year-old's 2 siblings, so 3 kids, to the bathroom and locked them in. He took an extension cord to the door handle and pulled it tight so they couldn't get out. So he took their mother to her room, Miss Shirley, tied her to a metal bed frame, choked her with nylon cord, and suffocated her to death. The 5-year-old son, Stephen, managed to break out of the bathroom and run to the neighbor's house screaming that his mother was dead.
My goodness.
So the neighbors called the police. Raider made off. He's gone. Didn't get caught for that, and they didn't connect her with the other killings yet either.
Okay.
But also the autopsy report, no SA and no defensive wounds. So why didn't she fight back?
Right. Yeah.
Was it because of her babies? Did he say, like, do what I say and I won't hurt your children? And he locked them in the bathroom?
Right. Maybe he promised her, hey, you do what I want and I'll spare your children.
Right. Because she didn't fight back.
Wow.
There was no defensive wounds at all.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, why so long between the murders? 3 years. What do you think?
Yeah. What kept him so content? What do you guys think? Well, I mean, unless you know the story already, then you might know. But I mean, if you don't know, what do you think? What kept him so content for 3 whole years?
Yeah. What was keeping him so busy? He called the long periods between the murders his cooling off periods. And to satisfy his strange sexual urges, he would dress in female undergarments and even some of his victims' underwear that he kept for himself. And he would wear these creepy masks, like fake porcelain doll masks, or you've seen the one with like the rosy cheeks and wigs and stuff. And then he would tie himself up in rope. And then he had a Polaroid camera with like a remote, so he could take photos of himself to masturbate to later.
That's wild.
Yeah, he said he liked to pretend to be his victims. And that turned him on.
Man, that's so weird. And I remember, like, I seen one of these photos for the first time, and I remember being like, that's him?
Creepy.
Like, he's that's weird.
Yeah, it's almost like horror movie status. It's
it
pretty
really
scary.
is. Yeah, it looks horrifying. Really, it does.
So same year, December 8th, 1977, there was a phone call to 911 at 8:20 in the morning. And the killer Raider called it himself, but they didn't know this at the time. The person on the other end of the phone stated, "You will find a homicide at 843 South Pershing, Nancy Fox." So early that morning, he broke into Nancy's home, gagged her with stockings, bound her feet with her yellow nightgown, and choked her with her own pantyhose. And then he proceeded to masturbate into a blue nightgown and left it beside her. And back then they didn't have DNA, so he was just willy-nilly just leaving his DNA everywhere.
Wow, and that just blows my mind, is that at one point in time, which wasn't too long ago, you could just leave evidence like that and not even worry about it.
Yep. Autopsy also showed in this one no sexual assault.
Wow. Okay, so we know his thing is to bind, torture, and kill, but not to assault them.
Which is strange. He does
Which is
say it's all for sexual pleasure, but he
right.
doesn't pleasure himself with them. He does it himself. So my question is, why? Why is he going to all these lengths, extraordinary lengths, for sexual pleasure only to masturbate? But they had magazines. He used to do these old detective magazines that had women bound and stuff, and there was like stories of these bad guys in these old detective magazines, and he had those.
Okay.
So why?
So it's
yeah,
like
right.
a soft core
Yeah.
deal there.
Exactly.
So yeah. Huh. Wow. So why actually go through with it just to do what you're doing at home?
Right.
Basically.
It has to be the kill part.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So the recording of the 911 call played a lot on the local news at first, but eventually the media attention on Nancy waned away. And on February 10th, 1978, he wanted more. He was like, I still want more attention. So he sent a letter to ABC affiliate Cake TV 10. The letter contained a drawing of a woman bound and gagged face down on a bed with a poem titled, "Oh, Death to Nancy."
Oh my goodness.
All right. So the poem states, "What is it that I can see? Cold, icy hands taking hold of me. For death has come, you all can see. Hell has opened its gate to trick me. Oh, death, can't you spare me? Over for another year. I'll stuff your jaws till you can't talk. I'll blind your legs till you can't walk. I'll tie your hands till you can't make a stand. And finally, I'll close your eyes so you can't see. I'll bring sexual death unto you for me."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild. And that's the one he reported to the police himself too, right? That murder?
Yes, the Nancy Fox murder.
Right. So
yeah.
so not only did he murder this girl, then he reports the murder so they know where to find her, and then he writes
sent this
them a poem about the murder
to the news channel.
Wow. Which is like, why is it also that way? It's like, I'm telling you the truth, it's me.
Yeah. I think he really wanted to be like, obviously we make serial killers famous in America. Everybody wants, we have a morbid obsession with it. We want to know more, and why, how do people work this way? And he knows this. He wants that infamy. So after the poem was released to the public over the news, because the news channel, media, they got to let it out there. They can't hold it in.
They love this stuff,
They
right?
love to stir the pot.
And if I'm not mistaken, like when this all went down, they started receiving letters. They called the police and said, "Hey, we have letters coming from this guy, and we'll let you open them only
if we can film.
If we can do segments on it and film it."
Yep.
Like you're
all the while, Raider's watching.
Right. And there's girls out here dying. He's watching. He's writing you, and you're like, let me get this footage because
it's gonna make great TV. Yeah. So right after that, police held a press conference linking all the BTK killings together and asking the community for help. And they leaked the detail of him cutting the phone lines from the outside. So, of course, everybody in the community started freaking out, having ADT put in them security.
Yeah, which he's coming to install, right?
Which BTK himself is coming to install your security system.
Jeez.
And then people were stating that they were so scared to go home at night that they would make sure their phone lines were still intact before they went in their house. Like, he really terrified this community back in the 70s.
Holy cow.
So then another year goes by, and we're up to April 28th, 1979. A woman named Anna Williams, she went out to dinner with her friends, and she's an elderly lady. She decides to go back home, and her friends were bugging her, like, please come out for a cup of coffee, just one more cup of coffee. She's just getting ready to go in the house. She's like, you know what? I'm going to go for that cup of coffee. That saved her life.
No way.
Yep. So she left to go get a cup of coffee. All the while, Raider is waiting in her house for her.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So she gets home about an hour after coffee and realizes there's a broken window and there's undergarments, a broom handle next to her bed.
Oh.
$35 and one of her scarves is missing. So she thought somebody just broke in, stole some stuff, whatever. She made a police report. Then about almost a month later, on June 15th, she received a package in the mail. It had her scarf, a poem, and a drawing of a nude woman bound to the bed with a broomstick in her bottom.
Oh my goodness. So I'm assuming this is what he was planning on doing to her, and he's letting her know?
Yeah. That'd be terrifying. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Oh my goodness. So the Wichita Eagle, the newspaper, found out about this and ran a story with all the details about it in the paper 2 days later.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so he's getting all kinds of the attention that he wanted. So now there is a 6-year hiatus.
Oh.
6 years.
6
with nothing.
years with nothing. No
Yep.
letters.
Nothing.
No nothing.
No communication. No murders. Nothing. On April 27th, 1985, he broke into Maureen Hedges' home, bound her, strangled her, and then moved her to his church, where he had previously had plastic sheeting, and he had planned all this ahead of time and called it Project Cookie. Right. So he's naming these and planning them out now. He positioned her body in different bondage positions, maybe stuff he had saw in magazines before, or whatever he liked, and then took Polaroids of her. Kept her for a few days and then disposed of her in a remote ditch on May 5th. And about a year later, September 16th, 1986, Raider knocked on Vicki Lynn Wagerly's door pretending to be a telephone repairman. He had cut her outside line and then pretended to come fix it. And she's like, sure, come on in. My phone's not working.
Oh, no.
Come fix this phone for me. And then he held her at gunpoint, tried to tie her up, but she fought back. So he had to instantly strangle her and then took photos of her body, but left her there.
So it sounds like after his, 6-year hiatus, he's coming back pretty hard.
Yeah, coming back with a vengeance. And
wow.
Yeah, botching things up a little bit too. Then we skip a couple more years. We're into February 1st, 1991. So he takes long gaps. He actually sent another letter at some point. He actually says, the sexual thrill is my bill.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he thinks he's a poet or something.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
He really
it sounds
likes
like
to
he's
hear
very
himself.
into himself.
Oh,
and
yeah.
very I'm the man.
Exactly. Very narcissistic. Typical.
Ugh.
So we're to February 1st, 1991, BTK's final victim. She only lived apparently 7 doors down from him. They had known each other probably not that well, but they knew of each other. And he waited for her to fall asleep one night. And he wasn't hiding or anything. He took a concrete cylinder block and threw it right through her patio screen door.
Oh,
or
okay.
slider door. Right. And so she woke up. They got in a tussle. He tied her up and strangled her.
Wow.
This was the night he was supposed to be at a camp with his son for Cub Scouts. He had left the camp to do this.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So he went and killed her in between campouts. So he left the camp out, went and did this, took her body, dumped it under a bridge, went back to camp.
Oh, my
No big deal, right?
goodness,
Just,
no way.
it's fine. So then the next day, after the Cub Scouts were over, he went back to her body to take pictures. But apparently she was decomposing and he wasn't really, feeling the way she was looking anymore.
Okay.
So he put one of his gross
One of them
porcelain
weird
doll
masks,
masks on her,
yeah.
but it still wasn't doing for him. So he just left her there.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was his last victim. Thank God.
Yeah, really.
But 20 years went by. 2004, he started sending letters again.
Oh, no.
So in March of 2004, he sent letter of Vicki Wagerly's driver's license and crime scene photos to the Wichita Eagle.
Oh, my goodness.
Because out of nowhere, he's popping up again.
Right. And which means that he's taking souvenirs and items from them and keeping them because he's sending them now to...
Yeah. Yep. And they said before, too, he had kept their lingerie. He has all kinds of little trinkets from these kills that he's done.
Wow.
Yeah. He sent more letters to Cake TV. One was titled The B.T.K Story. It was like an outline of how a book should be written about his life.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. He had taped a package to a stop sign and it had graphic descriptions of the Otero murders. That was one that was labeled Sexual Thrill is My Bill.
Oh, my
his
goodness.
Poet.
That's weird.
11 packages in total were sent to various media and left in parks and left. One was a cereal box left on the side of the road with like a tied up Barbie doll inside. A lot of weird things. Eventually he wrote to the police and he really wanted to give them all this disgusting information, but it was all on a floppy disk.
Oh.
And so he asked them, if I hand over this floppy disk to you, it's not traceable, right? And be honest. Well, of course the cops are like, yeah. Scout's honor.
Right.
It's not traceable.
And which is wild too, because from my understanding, this guy is actually pretty smart.
Yeah,
Like he's an
that's what they
actually
said.
high IQ individual, and you're gonna buy that? Like you gotta know, right, that this stuff's trackable. I mean,
Right?
and then you're gonna
But this
believe
is
the
very
police. You're gonna be like, please tell me, and they're gonna be like, oh yeah, and you're gonna believe it.
right. But this is like beginning of internet time.
I mean, true,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I keep forgetting too. This is back in the 70s and 80s.
Well, now it's early 2000s,
90s.
and he's older, so he's probably not super
Yeah,
hip to
that's
new
true.
stuff
Yeah,
coming
true.
out.
It's all new, and he is older too. So yeah, I forget about that.
Yeah.
He is quite older now.
Yeah. So of course the police are like, yeah, it's not traceable.
Yeah,
Send us
yeah.
that floppy disk.
Yeah.
So he does. Apparently it's horrifying. It's the disgusting pictures we talked about of
Oh.
himself with the scary masks all
mm.
bound up. It's pictures of the women that he's killed.
Mm.
It's also detailed journals of all his sick thoughts and dreams and fantasies. And they were like, they've never
Wow.
seen anything like it.
Wow.
So as they're going through it, they track the floppy disk back to his church, the one where he's the president of the council.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they
okay.
can see that it was last modified by someone named Dennis.
Oh wow.
then
yeah,
they
'cause
realized-
you gotta log into your profile and log into your everything.
Exactly.
That's not trackable on the floppy disk.
Right,
know?
right.
And so once you do that, and then you do everything, you know, it's digitally there. It's there.
Right. So then they got a warrant for DNA from his daughter's pap smear.
Oh wow. Okay.
After they connected all the dots and
Oh,
everything,
yeah,
and
they
they thought
started
it was probably
suspecting
this
it.
guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So they matched it up, and it was a familial match.
Wow. Yeah, because
So they
now
knew.
we're talking 2000s,
Yeah.
early
Now
2000s,
DNA is a thing.
and they have DNA.
Yeah, so
and
they
they
had
have
all
just
that-
a little bit of yours or
Yeah.
his from back then.
Yeah.
So
he had left semen samples at a few.
you know what I mean. So now you have a little bit of that evidence from back then, and
Yeah.
nowadays you can start to use that evidence. So
Yep, they connected it all together.
wow.
So then on February 25th, 2005, he was arrested, charged with 10 counts of murder. He pled not guilty at first, but later changed his plea to guilty and then described the murders in gory detail to the judge and everybody in the courtroom.
And then I proceeded to tie her up. She got sick, threw up, got her a glass of water, comforted her a little bit, and then I went ahead and tied her up, and then put a bag over her head and strangled her.
Wow, yeah, and I watched some of that too, and it was like, and I've seen a lot of things too that dub it as like an academy speech or something, because this guy
Yeah.
went ham on everything. He even wept, and he was even crying at certain
Give me a
points. Like,
break.
and then he was comparing himself to the victims,
Ugh.
and like, I mean, I
God.
remember it being like, oh, this is something.
Yeah, I know. The family left. the
Yeah,
courtroom.
yeah. I thought that
The
was pretty
families-
slick. They all said, "Hey, if he starts to talk, let's get up and get the hell out of here because we don't want to hear nothing."
Yeah.
I don't blame him. You know, I
No
wouldn't want to
respect
hear
for
nothing
that
to
guy.
him either.
Yeah,
or
not
from
at
him.
all.
No,
He was sentenced to 10 life sentences.
I mean, good, yeah. Which and he's still alive. You know,
Yep,
so
in
he's
prison in Kansas.
yeah. I think when we looked this up, it was something crazy. I was blown away.
21,
Like
2148 or something is his
yeah,
parole date.
21 something crazy. Like it's so
Yeah.
weird to even hear, and which is, I mean, it's where he belongs. But
Definitely.
you know, holy cow.
Right. It's a wild one. It's a
That
wild
is
story.
crazy. And this is, I think it's one of the ones too, like everybody will always be interested in and baffled by, because how can you be such a weird sicko and bind,
And a
torture, and kill
normal
these people
Normal family
and
man.
be so normal at the same time? Because, you know, nobody suspected him. You know, I remember even when the police came to his front door and his wife's like, no, you guys are terrible police. This ain't the right
wrong
guy.
guy.
You guys are completely wrong.
Yeah.
You know, and
There has to be some kind of inkling, right?
you would
That
think
the
there's
person
something.
you've spent the majority of your life with is a creep,
Big
a
time,
creepy weirdo.
big time.
Was there some kind of creepiness in their sexual relationship? She's not talking. I would love to
Right.
hear some details about their
Yeah.
personal life.
Yeah. Like, was there things behind closed doors that would have gave you this, like, oh man, that's kind of weird,
Right.
or, you know, like maybe you're into some things like that and you don't suspect anything about your behind the bedroom door fun and activities until somebody knocks on your door
Yeah.
and makes those weird for you. You know,
That's
maybe
true.
maybe they were into bondage. You know,
Maybe.
and maybe that was their thing, and it was just okay, and that's what they did until the police knock on your door and tell you who he is.
That's
And
true. I mean, it's
then-
different if it's just bondage and tying up, but when he's like, "Hey, Pretend like you're dead.
I mean, that would be
That'd be a red
sign,
flag,
right? Yeah,
but
it
she's
don't
not
sound,
talking, so we don't know.
and it don't sound like from, because his kids do talk.
Yeah, they do.
His daughter talks a lot.
Mhm.
I think his son has talked. He's got a son, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think his son has talked some too, and neither of them, from what I've seen,
No.
they're like, he was a great dad.
Yep.
So
Daughter
it
said that
just
they were best friends.
blew him away.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the daughter saying something too, like, he called from prison right as it happened, right after it happened. They didn't answer the phone. The machine picked up, because back then we had, recording machines that pick up, record the phone calls. But like, the machine picked up, and it was him recording on the recording saying pick up or whatever, yada yada. And I remember the daughter saying, right then is when she knew everything was different, because it didn't sound like her father no more. It was somebody else.
That'd be such a horrible thing to not know the person that you've spent your whole life with.
Oh, man.
To not really know.
Yeah.
It's like a kick in the gut.
And I think that's what blows me away the most, is like, how can you be so normal and so disgusting and crazy at the same time? How can you do it for months on end and then take breaks for years on end and be a dad and a father and a husband?
And my theory is that's when his kids were born, and that's when he got really busy.
Yeah.
Young kids and just didn't have time.
But
to fulfill his
it's still
fantasies.
crazy though, because look at all these other weirdos out here that have families and kids and all that, and it doesn't stop them.
But they don't kill for 30 years.
They don't.
You know,
I mean,
it's
but
usually
would
a
they?
shorter period of time, and then they're caught.
Crazy, right? That's
The
crazy.
only one in America, Zodiac, killed for a while and never got caught. We'll talk about that one another time.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be a good one. But man, that's wild.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's going to wrap this one up for today. We appreciate you guys being here with us, especially as we figure all this out, all the lighting and all the setup and everything. We are new to this, so we appreciate you guys being here with us, and we really hope you enjoy what we're doing here, and you hit that subscribe button before you head out of here.
Yeah. Leave us a comment, and we'll see you next week.
All right, see you next week, guys.